In the evening, Emil had to put on his Sunday clothes and his cap. He really didn't mind going. It might be quite fun to go out and see all those people. Piggy Beast thought so too, and when Emil and his mother started off, Piggy Beast came running after them and wanted to go too. But Emil said, "Dead pig," and Piggy Beast laid obediently in the road and was quite still, although his eyes followed Emil for a long time. The Good Templars Hall was crowded for that night, I can tell you. The whole of Lonenberger wanted to help in the conversion of Emil. The choir was lined up on the platform at the back of the hall, and as soon as Emil came through the door, they started to sing very loudly. "Oh, you young man who drank the glass with deadly poison in it." "It wasn't in a glass," Emil's mother said crossly, but only Emil heard her. When the song was over, a man stepped forward and gave Emil a long, serious talk, and finally asked him if he would take a pledge and stay sober for the rest of his life. "I don't mind," said Emil. Just at that moment, a little grunt was heard, and through the door trotted Piggy Beast. He had followed Emil, without Emil knowing, and now here he was. He was pleased when he caught sight of Emil in the front row and ran straight to him. There was a great commotion, for there had never been a pig in the Good Templars Hall before now, and they didn't want one there now. It wasn't at all fitting to have a pig in a place like this. But Emil said, "Well, he needs to take the pledge as well. He ate more cherries than I did." Piggy Beast seemed to be a bit overexcited, so Emil said, "Sit!" And to everyone's astonishment, Piggy Beast sat on his hind legs just like a dog. He looked very sweet and proper. Emil took some dried cherries out of his pocket and gave them to him, and the people of Lonenberger couldn't believe their eyes when the pig stuck his right foot forward in a gesture of thanks. Everyone was so fascinated by Piggy Beast that they almost forgot about the temperance pledge. Emil herself had to remind them. "Well, am I supposed to be making this promise or not?" And then Emil promised to abstain from strong liquor in the future, and also to work in whatever manner he could for the increased sobriety of his fellow men. "And that goes for you too, Piggy Beast," said Emil, after he had made his promise. Later, everyone in Lonenberger said that no one had ever taken a temperance pledge at the same time as a pig. "But that Cattle boy, he's an unusual one," they said. When Emil arrived home and went into the kitchen with Piggy Beast at his heels, his father was sitting by himself near the lit paraffin lamp. Emil could see that he had been crying. Emil had never seen his father cry before, and he didn't like it. But then his father said something which Emil did like. "Listen, Emil," he said, taking the lad by the shoulders and looking him straight in the eye. "Emil, if you promise to be sober all your life, you can have that cursed pig. Anyway, there can't be any good meat on it after all that skipping and drunkenness." Emil was so overcome that he jumped for joy. Once again he promised to be sober all his life, and he kept that promise too. No one has ever seen such a sober president of the council as Emil became, so perhaps it wasn't such a bad thing that he ate fermented cherries one summer when he was little. That night, Emil lay awake a long time talking to Ida. "Now I've got a horse and a cow and a pig and a hen," he said. "But don't forget that I brought the hen back to life," said Ida, and Emil thanked her for doing that. He woke up early next morning and heard Alfred and Lena talking while they drank their coffee in the kitchen. So he jumped straight out of bed because he couldn't wait to tell Alfred that he could keep Piggy Beast. "Animal owner Emil Svensson," said Alfred, and chuckled, but Lena tossed her head and chanted a little rhyme which she had been making up while she was doing the milking, and this is how it went. "His mother took him to the Good Templars Hall. There they made a man out of a drunken swine. He's promised that he'll never be drunk any more, and they've given him a pig. And they've given him the pig he was before." A more stupid song you couldn't imagine. "They've given him the pig he was before" was very silly, but that was just like Lena. She couldn't do any better. Then it was time for Alfred and Lena to go back to the rye field again with Emil's father and Crosamaya. Emil's mother stayed at home with the children. She was quite glad to be on her own, because that was the day when Mrs. Petrel was to come to fetch her bottles of wine, and Emil's mother didn't want Emil's father to be around then. It'll be a relief to have the bottles out of the house, thought Emil's mother, as she busied herself in the kitchen. Mrs. Petrel might arrive at any minute, and she listened for the sound of the cartwheels on the road. But what she heard was something quite different. A crash like broken glass from the potato cellar. She looked through the window and saw Emil sitting with the poker in his hand and a row of bottles in front of him, and he was smashing them one after the other, so the splinters of glass flew and the wine flowed. Emil's mother flung open the window and shouted, "What on earth do you think you're doing, Emil?" Emil stopped just long enough to answer. "I'm working for Temperance," he said, "so I thought I'd better begin with Mrs. Petrel."